Well, welcome to the Allcarnews podcast today. I'm Justin, and you're Alex, of course. Today we're going to be talking about your Defender, and it's a really nice 110 model. I believe it's a 2020, right?
2021.
2021, okay. So I do know for 2021 they changed a little bit of things for some trim options and packages. I was
Yes.
fortunate enough to check out a 2020 back when they came out. I think it was the Defender. It's some first edition or some X models, one of like the crazy spec out versions. So you just get a little bit of a taste of everything that you can get on the Defender. But I wanted to ask you, since you are an owner of this awesome Defender, what's your experience? What do you like, dislike so far, and how has it been so far for owning it?
I love it. Couple things I'm not a huge fan of, but nothing really major to where it's an issue for me. So yeah, I have a 2021 Defender 110S P300. So I
Six
actually went
cylinder?
with the cylinder instead of the six. I've driven the six cylinder in other JLR products. I've driven a Range Rover Sport with that engine, not the P400, but the P360. It's a great engine, but since I'm keeping this long term, I don't really want to deal with the maintenance of the mild hybrid system.
Hmm.
Truthfully, there probably isn't much to worry about with that, but I would just rather be safe than sorry. And it's also a new engine. It's only been out, I think 19 was the first year for it in the Range Rover
Yes.
Sport. And, from my past experience, I had an LR4 before this with a 5 liter. And although I never had really any engine issues, a lot of people did. Now, big issue with those were the timing chains. People followed the Land Rover oil change interval of 15,000 miles, and timing change would blow it. Sometimes you'd see it at 70,000, sometimes you'd see it at 120,000. But the trick for that car, at least, is to change the oil every 5,000 miles, 5 to 7,000, and you shouldn't have any issues. But the other thing, another reason why I want the four cylinder, that engine's been around for a few years, and based on people I've talked to, I know people at my dealer, people. I have a friend who in Pennsylvania who used to work at a dealer, and he said that they haven't really had any issues with this four cylinder. And I test drove one, and it was way more powerful than what I was expecting it to be, and I was pretty much sold on that. I was originally going to go for a six because that was close in power to my old LR4 with the V8, but after driving the four, it's it's more than enough. Um, so that's kind of one of the things I like about it. I do like that four cylinder. What else do I like? So why? Probably a question you'd be wondering is why did I get it?
Yeah.
There's lots of cars. So I mean, I've been fortunate enough. I've been working for my father's company the past almost 7 years, and I've saved up, and I wanted to get something, and my original choice, I really wanted an RS3. The time I couldn't actually order one. They stopped. They're still building them, but you couldn't special order one. I also, I'm a huge golf fan. I really wanted a Golf R. Also, that was another car that you could not order anymore. I didn't really want a used one because I wanted the long warranty and all that. Um, and then I saw the Defender, and I was like, well, I already have an LR4. This seems like a natural progression because my mom has a new Discovery, and it's great, but it's not exactly the same as the old LR4s, and the Defender, was a kind of the natural next step from an LR4 to
Definitely.
something else. And while the Defender is not as nice as the LR4 on the inside, the LR4 had much nicer leather, the trim was a lot nicer, whereas the Defender is more, it's still very nice, but it's more durable. You can beat the crap out of it and it'll take it, which is another thing that I really liked. I wanted something I didn't really need to worry about constantly cleaning, all that, and the Defender kind of ticked that box as well.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah,
very interesting that you have now you have an experience of both the Defender and the Discovery. So I guess from this experience, how do you compare the two? Because I know a lot of people have been calling the Defender, oh, this new Defender. It's not. They're saying it's
Yeah.
not a Defender. They're saying it's not capable. It's just like a modern LR4, basically.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Well, you know, after kind of, I made an Instagram account kind of all about Land Rovers, and after talking to a lot of people that, when the new Defender was revealed back, it was Frankfurt in 2019, I believe. People, the old Defender crowd were, oh, it doesn't have solid axles. I can't fix it with a screwdriver. Yeah, they were never gonna make a new Defender. They just couldn't.
Yeah.
You know, safety regulations, emissions, all of that stuff. You can't really do it. But then, I was talking with a bunch of people, and then they drove. They had a chance to drive one, and their mind changed. It is really eh, again, still a lot of people say it's the new Discovery, and I 100% disagree with that. The Discovery is much more of a family-oriented SUV, whereas it's still very capable. It can go most places the Defender can go, but the Defender is more of a utilitarian. I use air
Hmm.
quotes with that, utilitarian, but it's much more off-road focused. Just by looking at it, looking at the inside, all the materials, um, stuff like the payload capacity of the Defender is just under 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, the towing I heard is pretty impressive too for
Towing
an SUV.
is so yeah, for the four cylinder is 7716, which is actually the
Wow.
same as my old LR4.
Wow.
Um, the six cylinder can tow just over 8,200, and that's the same as my Discovery. Um, and but yeah, it's a lot. But the payload is the big thing. The
Yeah.
payload being almost 2,000 pounds. I mean, that's you know comparable to you know any pickup truck, like a full size truck. Um, but yeah, that's another thing. And they do drive differently. The Defender's a little bit more rough, which I
Hmm.
actually really like. Discovery's much more refined, even though the Defender is very refined. I do think the Defender, in some ways, the suspension tuning is better than the Discovery, but
Interesting.
the Discovery is much more of a comfortable kind of ride. Whereas even though the Defender has the adaptive dampers, um, it's a little bit stiffer, which I prefer.
And the Defender comes standard with the air suspension, I believe, right?
The 110
The
does.
110. Okay.
90s come standard with coils, and it's an option. Funnily
And
enough,
the,
my original plan was to get a 90, and
those are
I
hard to
priced
get.
one. Well, yeah, right now, and actually, so when I went to order this, I was like, all right, I want to get the 90, and spec one out. And I talked to my salesman, and he was like, you can order a 90 right now, but JLR of North America will not be processing allocations until after the first of the year. This was back
Interesting.
in October, and you're probably gonna be getting your car in about April. So I was like, I still want the 90, and then my dad was like, well, see how much a 110 would cost with the same options, and the price was just over $2,000 difference. And if I were to get the 110, the order will be processed immediately. I get my allocation, and it would be here middle of February.
Mhm.
Um, and everything went smoothly, and it actually showed up about 3 weeks early.
Wow,
So
that's great.
yeah, and now I'm very glad I ordered when I did, because now I know a guy. He ordered one, and I think he ordered his. I think it was sometime in November. He's not getting his until May. And I know a lot of people on the forums. Apparently, they stopped production. I guess they're having issues sourcing stuff. I assume it's with this microchip shortage, even though JLR has said that they've avoided that. But we'll see. I know the big one is we don't get it, the plug-in hybrid. Apparently, again, this is just stuff I've seen on forums and Facebook groups. Apparently, plug-in hybrid, I guess, was delayed for 22. It was supposed to be out in Europe for 21, and then people aren't getting them. So We'll see.
Yeah. Well, we do have the upcoming V8 model, which I did see.
Yeah.
So that I think that's going to attract a lot more of the traditional Defender crowd, if you want to say that, to the new Defender. They're missing out on that old big V8 power or something like that. But another thing I wanted
I
to
don't
bring
know
up
if I would
was,
say that.
oh yeah,
I
sure.
think
You don't think so?
I might disagree with you because I feel like that's gonna be the top, and that's gonna be the most expensive. I feel like that's kind of more of a G63 competitor.
Really?
That's what I would say because I feel like the Defender it's kind of in a weird place. I'd say it can compete with Wranglers, like high-end Wranglers, high-end Broncos. It can also kind of compete with the G class, even though it's kind of in the price right in the middle between those two.
Yeah.
I guess you could there as well, but that's kind of a different type of car. But
Yeah.
that's the way I see it personally, and I think that if you were to compare a Rubicon to a Defender, I still think the Wrangler's a little bit better, especially if you're doing like some serious rock crawling. The Wrangler, the approach angle, I think is well over 4. I think it's like 45 degrees. I'll have
hmm And it also has the
correct.
disconnecting sway bars.
Yes, yes. So I think in a very technical rock crawl, the Wrangler and the new Bronco will easily beat the Defender. But everywhere else, the Defender can really hold its own against those. It's got a better um, breakover and departure angle than both the Bronco and the Wrangler. Um, Ground clearance, I think it still has the most ground clearance with the air suspension in it in off-road height. Still can go through the most water, just under 3 feet of water. But yeah, ultimately, it's they each attract a different group of people.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I wanted to bring up is something that's not really, I think, avoidable right now in the Defender community online for the past few months is I'm sure you've seen the TFL car
Yeah.
Defender sagas. I think that may have scared people away from the Defender, but also may have reassured people that the Defender can also be capable at the same time, because they've had, I mean, insane issues to them, and they're in a
Yeah,
very
that was
specific
very
position. Yeah, that they
yeah.
could have contact with JLR to kind of get things sorted out. But I don't know if that was more of an isolated situation or
I
if it was
feel like
it's a widespread issue.
I mean TFL. I think they just got a bad. At least their first one, they just got a bad car. I
Yeah,
mean, it's a first model year. There's going to be issues. And
definitely.
every car that's made, there's going to be a few that are not, you know, just aren't good. I think they got a bad car. I mean, I have the same engine that they originally had, was the 4-cylinder. I have not a single issue, even though I've only had mine a month. They only have theirs like 2 days.
Yes.
Yeah. I know people that have 4 cylinders that have, I know a guy that has a 4-cylinder and he had his longer. I mean, he got his before TFL ever got theirs a couple months before, and he's never had an issue. Um, it's part of me feels like I mean I respect TFL and what they do, but I feel like it was kind of clickbaity. You know, um,
Yeah,
they just had a very unfortunate situation, and then with the second car with the winch being installed, they sliced through some wiring loom. And the way they kind of put it is a total car. Um, so that was the dealer's fault, and then I don't think I haven't really followed them with their newest
mhm.
one. I don't think they've really had a ton of issues with it or any issues. But yeah, I actually,
There's
I actually sent in a picture of my car to TFL. They posted it on their YouTube community page, and the amount of hate I got was insane. I don't care what other people think. That's say whatever you want about me. I don't care. But the amount of hate was, I think, last time I looked at, there was like 415 comments, and like maybe 11 of them were positive.
about
It was
what? The 4-cylinder or other
Well,
things?
no, because I don't know if you follow TFL, like, a lot of people will, like, send in, like, hey, I just got this car, and then
Yeah,
so that's what I did. And since I got a Defender, I knew there was gonna be hate, but I was not expecting too
yeah,
much. But I don't care.
interesting.
That's
Yeah, no, people just like to hate, and they're going to follow the trend of
yeah.
the whole hating thing.
No.
And then, I see other videos that I really appreciate. I don't know if you follow. I don't remember if it's the Topher.
Yeah,
I
I've
think
seen
he's
his
over in
reviews.
Michigan, or he had a Defender, and he's just ripping it through an off-road trail. Like it
Yeah,
just drove right off road, ripping it through, taking it, it's handling it like it's nothing. And it's nice to see that people are taking their Defenders or just their press car or whatever and throwing it off road, and it's really, really, really capable.
yeah.
And I think
And
everyone
actually,
overlooks that.
in addition to that, a lot of owners are actually taking them off road. A lot
That's
of
great.
way more than any, because most Land Rovers, no one takes them off road. I
Mhm.
think they said, like, the average Land Rover owner, if it's a one owner car, will take it off road after like 7 years of ownership. Or if it's not a one owner car, the car is usually on its like third or fourth owner before it's actually like used off road. But with Defender, I mean, I know a guy here in Cincinnati. He got one, and he uses it as an overland rig, and he's taking it off road, and he hasn't had any issues, and it's good to see a lot of people are using it as it was really intended for.
Yeah. And also, who has big Doug DeMuro of all people? He bought a
Yeah,
Defender too to kind of prove to the internet that it's
was
not a
that
bad car.
surprising?
Not at all. And he took it on a road trip from California
Yeah,
to, I think it was Martha's Vineyard, and then back. Reported on it. I remember watching the video because I found it
Nantucket,
really
I think.
interesting.
He was
Nantucket,
Nantucket.
yeah.
Basically
And
the same thing.
yeah, and he didn't really have any major issues other than I think the sunroof
Yeah,
stopped working or something.
yeah.
Another some minor gremlin that he couldn't figure out. But
Mhm.
yeah, I guess that kind of like proved a lot of these, or at least with the TFL problems, kind of wrong in that sense.
Yeah,
Not wrong, but it's not a common issue across all the
right,
defenders, and it's more of like early production gremlins. It's a brand new
right.
platform, it's a brand new car, new technology. It happens to everyone. Every manufacturer has issues. They have to just recall the brand new S class because the steering linkage failed or something, and no
It's
one
not
talks
even
about it,
here yet.
and no one
Yeah,
even talks about that. But they're all hating on this.
I'm excited
Because,
for that.
but
S class is a big deal.
yeah, it is a very big deal. I wanted to ask you about interesting stuff on the technology side, on the inside, because I noticed that you have the package that has the digital dashboard.
Mhm.
I'm sure it has that new Phibi Pro infotainment system in the center console,
Yeah, so actually the
and
digital dash is standard on the S. So
on
S
the
and
S.
above, they all have that.
Okay,
Yes, and
okay,
it's available as an option on the base. It's like, I think
okay,
it's only a couple $100 extra on the base, so it's in my
yeah.
mind it's worth it.
And from my experience using it, compared to, I would say that just the previous generation infotainment system that I checked out in a Jaguar, it's worlds better. I think
Oh yeah,
oh my God, it's really good actually. I was impressed with how fast everything was, how smooth it was. Um, what do you think about that?
I think it is a world class infotainment system, just as good as I mean, I think my opinion stuff that I've used. I think the big three, GM, Stellantis now, and Ford. The
Hmm.
sync systems, the Uconnect and the IntelliLink, I always thought were really good. Um, Audi wheels. My dad has an Audi Q7, but his is the old one with the scroll wheel, which I much prefer over a touchscreen. But
Yes, MMI.
their new MMI system, the touchscreen is also very good, and I think Phibi Pro is up there. I mean, coming from the old In Control Touch Pro system, which uh, yeah, it's that's what we have in the Discovery, and sometimes it doesn't boot up. Sometimes it might take 3 minutes to boot up. Sometimes I'd say about 90% of the time it works as it's supposed to, but it's very slow. It's very slow to respond. Whereas this new one, it's always on. I think the car has something like 14 modems in it. There's all
Yeah.
sorts of like really cool stuff. Um, And I know it has a separate battery just for the infotainment, so it's like an always on
Wow.
type of deal. So it never theoretically should take a long time to boot up. I've never had a single issue with it. It supports over the air software updates as well. I 2 days ago when I looked, it said that um, an update was downloaded last week. I didn't even know it. It must have done it while I was driving. And I know that smaller updates are like that. They'll just update by itself and you would never know. And then bigger updates, they'll tell you that there's an update available. It is downloaded, but it needs to be installed. And you can either, install it, when that notification gets to you, or you can set a timer so you can do it at night or something like that. But usually I
Interesting.
think those updates take about 30 to 40 minutes for the most part. I have not had one of those yet. But
Wow, that's really
yeah,
cool. I like that actually. I think the over-the-air software updates are the future
yeah,
of everything. I think Tesla really
everyone's
pioneered
doing it.
that. Oh,
Yeah, Tesla
yeah,
pioneered that. Ford's doing that now. I think this newest Sync, they're doing that. JLR is now doing that. I I can't think of, but within the next 2 years, everyone's going to be doing it.
awesome. And so I noticed on some of the pictures you took on like a little mild off-roading. So how was that
Oh,
experience?
yeah,
Yeah,
great. Yeah, I mean, no issues at all. Wade sensors actually work.
that's
Um,
cool.
Even though I that was not hardly anything for the Wade sensors, but they worked. That was actually in when I did that, I actually left the terrain response in auto. Um, Usually, I've been to the Land Rover Experience Center at the Biltmore State for owners' days. I took my LR4 there 3 times. And the instructors always say, there was one person that asked about the auto terrain response or terrain response too. And they said, although it's great, for what we were doing that day, it really, for the most part, it's best to know what you're going to be driving over, what you are driving over, and put it into that mode, because then the car knows it's going over that. Whereas the auto mode can figure it out, but it's not as, you know, technical on certain
Mhm.
aspects. So like you can figure out if you're rock crawling, but it's better off, manually putting it into the rock crawl mode.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's
And speaking of all these modes, I know when I checked out the Defender, I was a little bit confused with this how they're all laid out in that little center console piece.
yeah, that's
How do you
one of
feel
the
about
things.
that configuration? Because I know you have to press down because those two dials are multifunction. They do like everything from heated seats. They can turn into the terrain response. They can turn into like, climate controls. How do you feel about like everything shoved into that little piece right there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to it now, but coming from an LR 2011 LR4 and our 17 Discovery, they both have the real terrain response style, and I prefer that. It kind of just
Hmm.
feels more. I like the tactile feel of things. I like buttons and switches. I like screens too, but I'm one of those people that's like you gotta have physical controls for certain aspects, and I feel like that is probably one of them. I think really the reason they did that is for the jump seat that not many people have
Oh,
bought. I've seen. I think that's why, and there's just not enough room there to use all that. But after getting used to it, I don't really mind it that much. And you don't even have to use that. You can press it and you can just use the screen to tap whatever
right.
mode you want. So you don't have to use the dial. I still find myself for the most part using the dial, but yeah. Um, but stuff like that, it's not that big of a deal once you get used to it. I do like the heated seat controls because that's the same as our Discovery as well. It's just very well integrated. You just push it and you just you've worked with it, so you know what I'm talking about. But
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
it's a pretty well integration for the most part.
Awesome. And have you seen all of the different accessories and things you can get for the Defender? Like,
Yes.
what is it? There's like that side pack. There's roof accessories.
Yeah.
There's. Have you looked into
In the
any of them?
so I know like the side, but in the kind of the new Defender Facebook group, it's kind of known as the lunchbox. Um, I That's one I would never get because you actually have to drill into the side of the vehicle
Oh,
to
wow.
have that installed. It's not permanent, but if you were to take that off, you would have to buy a little piece of trim that goes underneath kind of the windows, and you'd have to put it on a new one.
Interesting.
Um, Accessory, there's two that I will most likely go for. Not yet. I just wanted because I had to pay for this car. And I just wanted to keep the price down as much as I could, so I didn't go get any accessories. But the two I will most likely get will be the front skid plate and the
Mhm.
rear recovery eyes. Um, but the stuff like the Expedition roof rack is really cool. It does make a lot of noise. I have
Oh
driven
yeah,
one
I
with
can
the
imagine.
Expedition, but it's not. It's noisy, but it's not irritating. Um, the ladder I think is really cool, but then with that you still have to get the roof rack, and they're Land Rover accessories. They're very expensive.
Yeah.
And also a lot of that stuff is on back order due to the coronavirus. So I did call my dealer about getting the recovery eyes for the back, and they they won't be here until like March. And
Oh
then
wow.
it's the same thing with the windshield as well. Our Discovery had a broken windshield, and I was able to get one. They had one left in stock, and it was the exact fit for my car. Had it installed, and a week later it broke again. And I called him up, and I was like, "Yeah, we still don't have any. You know, we'll let you know when we get some." And that was back in September, and they still don't
Oh
have any. And he
wow.
said my dealer should have some by the end of the month.
That's crazy. It was just the heated windshield?
Yes, it's the
Okay.
heated, and but that doesn't really have anything to do. It's just they can't get any of them.
Like
It's the
wow, that's
it's
crazy.
Discovery. It's heated, and it has the infrared coating on it as well.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, it was like, God almighty, a week after I get a new one, it broke again, and it broke a lot worse this time. It's a huge crack.
Yeah. Jeez,
They
that's
went to I know, I think with the Discovery, I think they went to a different supplier for the windows. I can't remember the name, but I think they're based out of Japan, and they are nowhere near as good as the old stuff. Because my LR4 had a window made by a company called Pilkington,
mhm.
and a month ago, or not a month and a half ago, I was driving to work. I got caught behind a dump truck, and a little, a 2x4 about this big fell out, and it hit my window, and nothing happened.
Wow.
Yeah. And I know the Defender has a windshield from the same manufacturer, but I'm it's probably more prone to cracks because of the way it's designed. And I think that's what Doug DeMuro had on his was
He
one of
had a
his issues. He had a cracked windshield.
I wonder if it's due to the windshields being a little bit more upright on these types of cars,
That's what
because I
I think
know
it is. Yeah.
the G-Class owners have a lot of problems with
Yeah.
cracks or rock chips and stuff because the window's like flat, like a brick going through
Yeah.
the air. Really
I would
interesting stuff
imagine that's
there.
probably it.
Yeah. And are those, I was wondering, are those little plastic traction looking things on the hood optional? I don't remember them being standard. Or did they come on
Yeah,
this model?
they're all there. They're on all of them.
Okay.
So they're all that black plastic. If you get the black package, so if you get like if that blacks out, the grill and all the badges, that actually will make those plastic things on the hood gloss black instead of like a satin black that
Mhm.
all the other. But yeah, it's on the old ones they were functional. They were actual metal checker plate, whereas it's just style to make it look like the old
Yeah.
one. Um, but it's just plastic and it's integrated into the hood. So when you open
Okay.
up the hood,
Awesome. I know people were
and
making
also,
fun of that as well.
yeah, I know
I like it
going back to
personally, but
yeah, going back to technology, some other stuff that I actually would like to discuss with the Phibi Pro navigation system is fantastic. It my old LR4 was really old and it worked,
mhm.
but it wasn't good. The Discovery is kind of the same way. This is fantastic. It comes with, it comes with map updates, basically until the warranty is over,
Mhm.
and then you can still pay extra for map updates after that. You can use this. So there's normal kind of like the cartoon maps that every car has, and you can all there's also an option for satellite. It's not Google Earth like they do in Audi, but it's the next best thing. Mine has the standard Meridian audio system, so they have a six speaker sound system, which I mean it's okay. It's
Hmm.
mainly the news or listening to a podcast, and then the one I have is the 11 speaker 400-watt Meridian sound system, and it's very good. Um, I did want to get the Meridian surround sound. That's what we have in the Discovery, and I'm kind of an audiophile, and that is one of the best audio systems I've ever heard in a car. I think it's up there. This is the 825 watt in the Discovery. I think in the Defender they brought it down to 700 watts, but it's the same
Okay.
system. They, I think it's not as good as like the Bowers and Wilkins that you can get in every Volvo now. It's not as good as that, but it's close. I think it's still on par with the Bang& Olufsen systems and Audis. I've never heard a full like high-end Burmester system in a Porsche or
The
a
3D
Mercedes.
ones.
Yeah, I've not heard that, but I would imagine those are probably a little bit better than the um, 825 watt Meridian. But I still think I have heard the 1700-watt Meridian 3D sound system that you can get, and it's optional on the Sport and the Velar and the full size
Mhm.
Range Rover. That is pretty much the best sound system I've heard. I mean, I'd say that's tied with what's in Volvo. Um,
Wow. I have heard the Volvo system. That's incredible. The top end.
yeah,
They're really
with
incredible.
all like the you can make it sound like Gothenburg Concert Hall. And
Yeah.
I remember reading that in the press material when that came out. I was like, oh, this is a joke. And then I heard one. I was like, this is not a joke. It's really, really good.
Yeah. Yeah. Some of these brands do this. You'd think it's a joke because I know Honda, Kia, Genesis, they have like these little sound profile things you can do to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
test out the audio. And it's like, whatever. Even I know Cadillac did that when
And
they partnered with
CT6
Bose to do that. Yeah. The Panerai.
actually, I've heard that, and I was very impressed with that too. 'Cause I feel like Bose, they make some really good stuff, and then they make some stuff that's not so good.
Yeah.
So like my
The Nissan.
yeah, yeah, GM, like
No,
Chevy.
yeah. Yeah.
Dad's Q7 has a Bose in it. Uh, it's a 3D Bose, so it does have the 3D sound, and it's definitely one of the best Bose systems I've heard of. I still think actually like the ones in the Suburbans and Yukons are actually a little bit better in my opinion than what's in the Audi. But the 3D effect in the Audi does add a lot to it, and that's if you don't like it, you can turn it off.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, also, one more thing about the Meridian that I really like. So if you do get the surround, at least on my Discovery, there's three surround options. So you can have stereo, no surround. There's Dolby DTS,
Hmm.
um, or no, Dolby Pro Logic 2. And there's DTS 6 or something like that. And then there's Meridian's own tri-field surround, and that blends the center channel and the side channels. And it's, it really does like surround you in sound. Yeah, it's phenomenal. That's Discovery. That's what we leave it on. And also another thing Meridian does, regardless if it's the 1700-watt, the 825-watt, or the 400-watt, they call it digital dither shaping, and it takes all digital audio, so USB, Sirius XM, Bluetooth, and it converts it to a common format to make it sound, we say CD quality. I still
Yeah.
don't think it's and it makes really anything sound good, which is a big plus.
Awesome. Now, if you like really love audio stuff, do you tend to, if you were going to be playing it, like, would you plug in your phone to connect it directly to
Yeah,
the system, or would you prefer Bluetooth?
yeah. I always use a like a USB. And I don't use Apple CarPlay. I think I'm the
Really?
only person in the world that does not
Wow.
like it. I don't like it. Um, Now for stuff like Waze, I think it's brilliant, but for the most part, I just use whatever. My LR4 that did not have Bluetooth audio. It had Bluetooth for the phone, but it did not have Bluetooth audio. It had a USB, but it was not designed for plugging in a phone. It was only designed for like a
Yeah.
USB drive, and it had a built-in iPhone connector, but it was the old, like the iPhone thing that was like this big. And I had an adapter for that, and that broke, and I couldn't get any more of those. And I got a Bluetooth module that could um, snap into there, and I use a Bluetooth, and it still worked with my steering wheel buttons and all of that. And it sounded pretty decent. So I only had that for the last year. I had that car, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But yeah, but yes, I
Okay.
am use a USB, and it charges your phone too.
Yeah, definitely. Does yours have a wireless charger?
It does, but I'm
It's
still on an
slow.
iPhone, so it
Oh,
doesn't even
okay.
work with my phone.
Yeah.
Because I also kept that. That was another reason why my LR4 had an aux, but it was in the back seat, so you had to run like a really long wire. It was
Interesting.
not back seat; it was behind the center console.
Yeah.
So I kept that phone for a while. So I'm definitely overdue, way overdue for a new one.
Yeah. So just moving on a little bit, what do you think about what's going to be going on with JLR a little bit in the future now? Because they kind of just shifted all of their plans a little bit. They're supposed to come out with Jaguars, the XJ EV sedan,
Yeah,
canceled. Now they're going
yeah.
a massive EV push. I think they're doing an electric version of the new Range Rover too. What do you think about all this?
I mean, you know, I am not. I'm not anti EV, but I do think this push toward electrification, not just with JLR, but for everyone, I think it's too fast. I think it's going on way too soon. I think I kind of like what they're doing with Land Rover. They're still going to have electrified internal combustion engines for the next was like 15 or 20 years, but they'll phase those out. I feel like, yeah, I first what they're doing with Jaguar, it's again, this is just my opinion. I don't think that's right. That XJ was basically finished. It was
Yeah,
everything
I was
was
sad to see
done.
that.
Like later this year, I mean, all the money was spent on it, and they canceled it. And I know that was also supposed. I think they were going to reveal that as an EV, and then like a year or two later, they would offer like mild hybrid and plug-in hybrid versions of that. Which
Mhm.
that's a shame because I love the XJ, the old one. The previous one was still my favorite, like big luxury sedan. But I think that was a mistake. And also, I apparently, according to other outlets, they asked the new CEO of JLR, if sports cars and sedans would be part of this future, and he didn't say if that was true or not. So I kind of have a feeling they're going to be a crossover only brand, which
Wow,
I know that's what everyone wants. Everyone wants a crossover, but
I know. It's sad. I mean, I did hear they're working on, well, they were, I don't know if this is going to change now. It was called a J Pace, I think it
bigger
was.
version
They're
of
going
it.
to be like a flagship electric SUV. They were supposed to come out with a J type.
Sure. But
Wow,
also, I
sad.
think, but that. So what when he said that, that's what kind of made me think, oh, this they must be going to only do crossovers. But I think when they one of their press photos when they did this whole renaissance for the brand, they showed all these cars underneath the covers. I think one for Jaguar looked kind of like a sports car.
Let me actually look at
Um,
that right now because I was
yeah,
curious. I'll see if I can find it in a second. But yeah,
I
I
think
think they need to have a sports car in their lineup,
they need to have sedans. You
regardless if
go
it's,
to a
yeah,
Jaguar.
yeah, they have to.
If you want a sedan, you get a Jaguar. If you want an SUV, you get a Land Rover. Or now you can get an F Pace or an E Pace or an I Pace, which are all. I've never driven an I Pace. I've been told I should. Apparently, very good is what I've heard.
Yeah,
And no one's
I
expecting
actually,
JL to do a good job with an electric car.
I
The
think
I
I
Pace
was pretty
delivered.
impressed with the iPace. A, how early it came out of, like how or
Yeah.
it came out a while ago, and how good it was for when it did come out. I mean, I think they were ahead of BMW or
Oh yeah.
even Mercedes. I mean, the EQC is terrible. as an electric car.
Not well. We don't
And
need to worry about it. It's not
well,
coming
it's
here
not
anymore.
coming. Besides for that one that was spotted in
Yeah,
Michigan, I saw. But yeah, it's just not good. I remember Carwow, their big YouTube channel. They tested a whole
yeah.
bunch of them with iPace and the EQC, and the iPace almost like
I remember that. I
on a
did see
whole
that.
bunch of stuff, which is
Yeah, I
crazy.
think I like the iPace. I think the proportions are off on it. I think it's a good looking car, but the proportions are a little bit like the wheels are so far forward. It looks like it's front wheel drive, and then the back is very, and I think I actually saw one the other day, and I was like, oh wow, someone must have actually bought an iPace. And then when I look closer, oh, it has dealer plates, but you don't
Yeah,
see them. It always is cool to see one because like oh it's like oh what's that apparently it's a
yeah.
great car. F Pace, I've driven
It,
those. Love that. That is by far my favorite, like, you know, compact luxury crossover. I think I've driven an X3, drove pretty well. It was the previous X3, not the newest one. F Pace, I've driven a V6 and four cylinder. V6, which they now replace out the inline six.
mhm.
I love that engine. Same engine as my Discovery, but in that it's got a different exhaust. It's loud. Even the standard like V6 F paces you could used to get were loud and they sounded great and they handled it incredibly well. Um, that's kind of me going off on my little
Yeah,
thing
I
about
have
it.
no idea why I can't find this this image at all. But I know I remember seeing it. I know what you're talking
Yeah,
about from it. But yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting. I know there's talk of them, at least Jaguar, actually ran over using the BMW V8 as a
heard
supply
that.
instead of the old AJ.
Uh,
Um,
I
I
mean,
don't
if
know.
they
I
have
don't
to,
like
they
that.
have to. But I like the AJ. The AJ's, early ones had issues, like my old
Yeah,
one had issues. Now that's been out for I think those came out in '09. I think the XFR was the first one I believe to get that.
yeah.
And now you just they're good engines if you take care of them. You just don't listen to their oil change interval. Just do it much sooner and you won't have issues.
You don't have problems. Um, yeah, I don't know because I know a lot of people have issues with BMW V8s, especially the twin
Yeah,
turbo ones. Reliability
yeah.
is on
Might
and
be it. I
off,
don't
and
think,
people. It's a
or
lease car. I feel like it turns into.
at least the non-M cars sound kind of decent. I'm not a big fan of the way the exhaust on the M cars sound with the V8s. I think they kind of sound a
Mhm.
little bit like a vacuum cleaner, but certainly no AMG. I think they do turbo V8s the best without question.
They do, yeah.
But
Um,
yeah,
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what they do. I think the new Range Rover. Um, I know it's gonna be heavy on electrification on all fronts,
yeah,
and I think that's gonna be like their big flagship way
yeah.
of showing we're going full EV. We're gonna be really pushing into this. I don't know how the range is gonna be on a fully electric Range Rover. It's
Probably
big,
not
big
good.
vehicle. Probably not
But
good. No, not at all.
and,
But
and again, you know, I don't think I think that's supposed to be revealed later in the year. I don't think, and it's just me. I don't think they're going to reveal the full EV version now. I'd say it'll
no,
probably be. I think they even said, didn't they say like the first Land Rover EV will not be out for like until like 2026 or something like that, or
yeah, probably
2024. So we
they're
won't
gonna
even
have to
see
get
that.
that technology down because I don't know if you've seen the image of the new Wrangler electric prototype that they're doing.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
an
I
image
did.
of it out, yeah, showing the chassis of it, and I think it's really interesting because they're not really doing a conventional EV setup. So they're shoving batteries into the body and frame chassis, but keeping
Okay,
the transfer case in. So all the power is going to go through, like whereas if the engine would be, and it's going to be still be sending to the rear wheels through the transfer case and then going back to the front wheels. So there's no electric motor. It makes no sense to
interesting.
me.
Yeah, I don't know. I actually had a conversation with a guy I know a couple days ago about this, and I can get that stuff to you later about how I guess he was saying he was kind of me like not saying I wasn't saying anything bad about JLR and what they're doing, but it was kind of more like I don't think this is the right way to go just yet. And he was saying, well, yeah, you have all your torque low end, which is great for off roading, and but yeah, that's I'll just kind of leave it at that. But I do think there are benefits of it, and I know there's the new Range Rover. There, I almost guarantee you know mild hybrid bare minimum. There's obviously going to be a plug-in hybrid, and then yeah, there's going to be an EV within the next several years. I'm looking forward to that. I do also think it's going to go up market even more.
Yeah,
My guess,
I can't even imagine the price of this
I
new
think
Range
we're
Rover.
at like 92 right now. I think
Yeah.
on base, and then I assume this one's probably going to start well over 100. But
Oh,
we'll
100,
see.
yeah, 100%. And they're gonna have to compete more with like things like the Bentayga and I think all the
They
other
can't make it
big.
that expensive because then no one's really going to buy it. So I think they're still going to be having their SVAs that are 200 plus thousand.
Of course,
But I
of
think
course.
105 to 110 base, and your average one will probably be 115, 120. But we'll see. But yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna have to see. Definitely. So I mean that's pretty much it. I think I was gonna wrap up with this, but do you have any other news things or stuff going on that you wanted to talk about or discuss?
yeah. I kind of wanted some new stuff. I was kind of looking like new GT3. I think is
Yeah,
awesome. That
yeah,
they still kept
definitely.
the 4 liter. Interesting though that they kept the 7-speed PDK. I thought that was interesting instead of going to 8.
Yeah, well, I was looking into it actually, and I was seeing that the engineers were talking about that they spent more R&D and money into trying to get the car to meet the regulations, the European emissions regulations, versus, making an entirely new hardcore GT car because they kind of had that formula already, but it was
Yeah,
just trying to get the naturally aspirated high revving engine, a manual, and all these things without any electrification to meet these standards. And they said it was so much like effort and time to put into it that it was like it consumed a lot of it.
and they did it, which is
But
great.
they did do it.
Here it's not as big of an issue. Emissions regulations aren't as important as they are in Europe, but it's great that they were still able to do that. And it's still, I'm sure it has one of those particulate filters on it. Doesn't sound
Too,
like it
I
does.
think.
Yeah. Wow. And,
I think
yeah, I
so.
mean, you've heard like I think like the RS3s in Europe that have it, they sound like nothing. And if that thing has two on it, unless if that's some trickery, it sounds really good.
Well, what I think what happened there is that a lot of these cars, oh, I know this happened to Audi big time, is they had to switch mid car, like in the same model year, they had to stop sale, add the particular filters on, and then
Yeah.
start selling them again. So I think just slapping them on there kind of, they didn't really have time to engineer an exhaust
Yeah.
that's going to be able to sound good at all. But I think when they're developing a car almost from the ground up, and then they have to think about that beforehand. I think they're going to be able to figure out ways to make it
Yeah.
still sound good, which I think they're able to do with this. Um,
Sounds
I think
fantastic.
with the 7-speed PDK, I think it was both for the application with that engine in particular, and I think it was just for the even faster shifts. I mean, the 8-speed is incredibly fast, but it's more. I think it's more designed for like a road use application, not necessarily track applications.
Right, that makes sense. I like they got rid of the I mean, at least yeah, I think they should do it on all of them. Get rid of that silly little shifter. It looks like an electric radio.
Yeah,
Now it's like you can't tell the difference between a manual and an PDK
it's the same
unless
thing. Yep.
the letters on the shifter. But I do think yeah, PD. I mean, I know if I were to buy one, I stick all day. But I have driven. One of my friends, his dad used to have a 911. It was a Carrera 4S. His was a PDK, and that thing was amazing. I mean, that I still think that is the best automatic transmission I've ever experienced. Best kind of normal one I still think is ZF 8-speed. Um,
Yeah.
but I think PDK is apparently PDK is actually a ZF transmission. It's not.
Really
That's what I have after doing some research on it. Apparently, yeah, it's
interesting.
it's as really it's
Well, I
kind of an
mean,
exclusive.
I've heard that the C8 Corvette's dual clutch is on par with the 7-speed PDKs on Porsche.
I've heard that too.
And that I'm actually really, really interested in this new Z06 that's coming out. I know people will say whatever they want about the Corvettes, but I genuinely think this could even further disrupt the market. The C8 Corvette, there's a whole bunch of hype around it. This new one's, I don't think people are really anticipating how big of a car this is going to be.
I was a huge fan well, I'm still, when this CA came out, I was like, wow, this is a lot better than what I was expecting. I still kind of would have preferred a front engine rear drive.
Yeah.
With the C7, there's no doubt they reached the limits of what they could do. And when the C7 came out, it was good. And then at the end of it, everything just got so much better. C8 was a game changer. It took me a little bit to kind of get used to it. And then I saw one in person. I went to a dealer and I was, they had a big showcase for it and you could sit inside. And I was like, wow, why did they not give this interior to Cadillac? Because it needs it. And then it just everything. And then after, all the reviews came out, it was Motor Trend's Car of the Year. I think Doug DeMuro named it his Car of the Year, something like that. And it really was a moonshot. It really changed everything.
Definitely. And I think GM, I don't think people are really realizing what GM is doing right now. And, I've been, talking bad about GM in the past. Everyone has. But I think they're at like a peak right now of a complete and total transformation that they've been working on for the past decade. That I don't think everyone's talking about, because they a lot of this technology they debuted in the C8 Corvette. So their new digital architecture, they have their new infotainment systems, heads-up display software, improved quality, and they're going to be spreading it across every single brand, specifically Cadillac.
Yeah,
their new stuff is impressive. The new Escalade, I think it's a combination of old and new. It's taking that old school body on frame truck platform and throwing in the little sprinkle of what they're about to be doing. But I think that the Lyric, when it goes on sale, is going to really implement everything that Cadillac's going to do. And it's going to water down through all of their new upcoming electric models.
Yeah, and I know you've kind of always, said some things about Cadillac. And I still think one of the best handling sedans I've ever driven was an ATS. Forget the interior was horrible.
Yeah,
it was
terrible. Terrible.
It was. I drove a 4-cylinder. Guy I know, he used to have one. It was, his was an automatic. I know you could get a 6-speed manual with a 4-cylinder, rear drive. I think it had like an ELSD in the rear.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, it was it. And I think GM benchmarked I can't remember if it was the E36 or the E46 3 Series in terms of handling.
Yeah. Well, I think the magic with the ATS, the CTS, and now with the CT4 and CT5 is that it uses their the Alpha architecture, which is the Camaro's architecture. And the 6th gen Camaro, I think, was probably it wasn't a muscle car, it's a sports car because it handled so well.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I think. It looks like a muscle car, but it's truly a world-class sports car.
I think putting it into the smaller wheelbase of the ATS and the CT4 chassis. I know the current CT4 people have been saying it's a little bit dull in the base versions, but I think the Blackwing will probably throw all that stuff back into it, at least handling wise. And I think just putting it in that smaller chassis in the platform. I mean, no one else is doing a small compact sedan that's rear-wheel drive anymore. All the Germans are front-wheel drive based platform, so it's unique.
And the Magneride magnetic dampers, they were the first ones. I still think they are the best. It's all Bosch. So it's the same. They used to offer it in the Evoque. It was the same. It was Bosch. They supplied it for the Evoque. They supplied it for everything GM. They supplied it for Ferrari. They supplied it for Audi. And one of my buddies he picked up an S3. It's like 2 years old, and it has that. And that's the most impressive thing on that car, I think, is the Magneride. It makes, it transforms a car to be really good on the street. And then on the track, it's not as good as like a fully track focused suspension, but it's really, really close.
Yeah,
I
yeah. No,
think that's the magic of Magnaride.
the level of adjustability, I think, is what's the key point there. And
Yes.
yeah, GM's always done that incredibly well. They have an amazing team of engineers there,
Yeah.
and unfortunately, sometimes they can't do everything they want to just do
Right.
because of
The suits, put a stop to that.
yeah.
But
But I think they really showed off with the C8 Corvette.
yeah,
They really just let them loose. I think the whole platform of this it's going to be incredible once they keep going on.
platforms. Yeah. Even just even when the Camaro came out in I think that was 2016, it was just it was amazing. I mean, I love the Mustang and the Challenger. The Challenger is a true old school muscle car. Mustang is kind of in the middle, and the Camaro is a world class sports car. You know,
Yeah,
compare it to an M4. I wouldn't say a 911, but other stuff from Europe, it can hang in there with all of them. I think.
yeah. I think the ZL1 1LE proved that in a
Yes.
sense. And even if you go down the lineup, it's the 1LE packages on the V6 and the V8 are just incredible driving cars.
You get,
Yeah, you may not be able to
you get the 1LE on a 4-cylinder too? For some reason, I thought you could. I
think
might be wrong.
you might be able to now. I could be
Yeah.
completely wrong, but you may be
Then
able to
they
now.
went to that stupid grill in like 19 and then like got rid of it.
They ruined it. Yeah, ruined it completely. I think they were going good. I think it was going good, and that really turned a lot of people away. They go a lot of people
Yeah,
away.
and why it was only there for like a year, and then they got it is gone, right? You can't get that stupid grill anymore. I think it was a 1 year only.
Yeah, they moved it back, the badge back up. They got rid of the big black bar.
Like
It's terrible.
who thought that would look? But yeah, I know GM, like all their the designers, and, the guy that he retired, Ed Welburn, who was head of design for GM for a long, long time. He retired a couple of years ago. Everything under him was, and even the GM design was great. Even though some of the cars weren't great, I still always thought the design was very good. Even
Yeah.
stuff like the CTS Coupe, I always thought was a very good looking car. CTS wagon. Um,
Oh, and the wagons. I love the wagon. Still to this day.
yeah,
My favorite. I wish to own one. And the V manual.
yes, exactly. CTSV wagon with a stick. That's on my bucket list. I would like
Yes,
to own
definitely. Definitely.
but they're they're costing now on the used market basically what they were new. They're
Well,
expensive,
impossible
but
to get.
they're worth it. I still probably would take that over a brand new RS6.
Wow, really? Honestly, I could
Where
see
I
that.
live,
Yeah, it'd probably be more fun.
kind of mandatory where I live, but
Yeah.
6 speed, who knows? But yeah, I'm just trying to think quickly. I don't want to hold you up, but just trying to think anything else. Big new McLaren or Artura? Is that how you pronounce that?
Yeah, the
McLaren
Artura.
Artura. That's impressive. I think it's a plug-in hybrid, but it doesn't really focus on being a plug-in hybrid. It's about performance, not really about.
Yeah, it's a performance hybrid. Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think so. We're going up around an hour now.
yeah.
I don't know if the Zoom
So
it might end itself. I don't even know. But yeah. So thank you for coming on and sharing
absolutely.
your ownership experience with the Defender and the likes, dislikes, and little quirks and features with that stuff, and talking about some of this news. It's great having you on podcast, and I hope you have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you very much, Justin. I appreciate it. It's been a long time coming, and if you ever need any more questions about this, you're more than welcome to ask me. I'd be happy to come on again or whatever. Yeah.
Definitely awesome. Thank you again. I'm just gonna
Thank
end
you
the
so much.
recording now.
Take care.